The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the hills, painting long shadows across the valley where Shepherd Michael's flock grazed peacefully. 100 sheep. They were his pride, his life, his responsibility. He knew each one by name, every bleat, every spot on their wool, every slight limp. To others, they were just sheep. To Michael, they were part of his soul. Among them was one, the youngest of the flock, whom he affectionately called Grace. Small, with lighter wool than the others, with a gaze that always seemed to Michael more vulnerable, more innocent. Since her first day of life, when he'd helped deliver her from her weakened mother, there had been a special bond between them. While the other sheep followed the flock, Grace followed the sound of Michael's voice. That day, however, something changed. A strong wind blew from the east, carrying the scent of wildflowers from a distant valley Grace had never smelled before. As the flock moved toward the pen for the evening, a call sweeter than the familiar voice of the shepherd whispered in her ears. A curiosity she'd never felt before began to burn in her chest. Where does that wind go? She thought, looking beyond the safe fences. What does that smell? What flavors exist there that I've never tasted? She hesitated, watching the familiar backs of the flock moving away. She heard Michael calling their names, blessing. Peace, hope, grace. And for a moment, she almost responded. But then the wind blew stronger, and the call of the unknown became a scream in her soul. I'll just take a quick look, she whispered to herself. I'll be back before they notice I'm gone. And so, with her heart pounding with excitement and fear, Grace slipped away from the flock and jumped through an opening in the fence that even Michael hadn't noticed. At first, it was wonderful. The grass really did seem greener on the other side. Flowers of colors she didn't even know existed dotted the field. The air was different, free, without the familiar restriction of the flock's path. She ran, jumped, ate, until she was full, feeling a euphoria she'd never experienced before. Why did Michael never bring us here? She thought, bleating happily. He kept us trapped on that boring path when all this beauty was right here. But soon the sun began to set, and the vibrant colors of the field transformed into gloomy shades of gray and purple. The wind that once smelled like flowers now howled ominously through the rocks. And worst of all, the flowers she had eaten, so sweet at first, began to feel heavy in her stomach, making her nauseous and weak. She tried to go back, but every direction looked the same in the growing darkness. The path she came from had disappeared. The field that once seemed beautiful was now a terrifying maze of shadows and strange sounds. Michael, she bleated, but her voice was swallowed by the wind. Where am I? Fear, like an invisible wolf, began to circle her heart. Meanwhile, in the sheep pen, Michael was doing his nightly count as always. It was a sacred ritual, lead sheep passing under his staff while he whispered their names. Double quotes, ... 90-7, ... 90-8, ... 90-9, ... Wotes. He stopped, counted again. 99 Grace, called, his heart speeding up a little. Grace, where are you? He searched the pen, hoping to find her hidden in some corner, perhaps hurt. Nothing. His heart sank. One was missing. The youngest. The most vulnerable. The other shepherds tried to comfort him. Michael, it's just 1 in 100. You still have 99. We'll look tomorrow. It's too dangerous at night. But Michael was already grabbing his staff in his bag. No, he said, his voice firm but full of pain. It's not just one, it's Grace. And if I don't go now, tomorrow might be too late. His eyes met those of the other shepherds, not with judgment, but with a determination that silenced all protests. Stay with the 99, he said. I'll be back when I find her. And so, while the other shepherds settled comfortably with the safe flock, Michael turned toward the darkness that had swallowed his lost sheep. Night in the hills wasn't for the weak. Wolves, coyotes, and other dangers lurked in the shadows. But Michael didn't think twice. He knew these fields better than anyone. He knew every ravine, every cliff, every cave. Grace, the key, he called, his voice echoing in the darkness. Grace, where are you? The wind was his only answer. The darkness seemed alive, trying to suffocate his hope. His feet bled from sharp stones. His arms were scratched by thorns he pushed aside. With each passing hour, the night cold deepened, and the fear in Michael's heart grew. He stopped at a high point, looking at the sea of darkness below. Where did you go, little one? What did you see that was better than my voice? What path did you follow that seemed sweeter than mine?" In his mind, he could almost hear her answer. "The flowers smelled sweeter, Michael. The grass seemed softer. The path seemed freer." His heart ached not because of the disobedience, but because of the danger his beloved sheep was in. He knew these fields, he knew the flowers that poisoned, the cliffs that looked like paths, the wolves that hid behind innocent bushes. Meanwhile, Grace was learning these lessons the hard way. Grace was now deeply lost. The initial euphoria had turned to pure terror. The beautiful flowers had made her sick. The open field turned out to be treacherous marshland where her legs got stuck. The free wind was now icy, penetrating her thin wool to the bone. She tried every path that looked promising, but each one led her deeper into darkness. Once, she thought she heard Michael's voice and ran toward it only to almost fall off a cliff. Now, not just lost, but also hurt, her front paw throbbed with pain from a sharp stone. Her wool was tangled with thorns. She hid in a crevice between two rocks. The darkness was complete. Hunger and thirst were agonizing. Why did I leave him? She cried softly. Why did I think I knew better than him? His voice was so sweet. ... His path was so safe. And I traded it for this. Shame burned hotter than hunger. Longing hurt more than her injured paw. He'll never want me back, she thought, tears wetting the fur around her eyes. I abandoned him. I disobeyed. Why would he care about a foolish sheep like me? She curled up deeper in the crevice, resigned to her fate. The night seemed endless, and her strength was fading. But what Grace didn't know was that Michael was closer than she imagined. He had followed every tiny clue, a strand of light wool on a bush, a footprint in the soft earth, a faint bleat the wind almost carried away. His feet were bleeding freely now, but he didn't even notice. His only concern was the lost sheep. He stumbled over rocks, fell into a ravine, faced a wolf with nothing but his staff and kept going. Grace. His voice was hoarse from calling. Grace, don't give up. Where are you? He stopped near the crevice where she was hiding, his oil lamp casting dancing shadows on the rocks. Grace, he called again. Inside the crevice, Grace heard. But now, besides fear and pain, there was shame. So much shame. Not face him, she thought. Not after what I did. He'll punish me. He'll reject me. She curled up tighter, silent, preferring certain death in the darkness to judgment in Michael's eyes. But Michael knew his sheepy, knew not just their habits, but their hearts. He knew fear and shame could keep her hidden, so he didn't pass by. Instead, he sat on the rock near the crevice and began to sing. It was the same song he sang every night in the pen, soft, calm, full of promises of safety and love. The music that lulled the sheep to sleep. The music that said, "You're home, you're safe, you're loved." Inside the crevice, the familiar notes struck Grace's heart like arrows of light in the darkness. Each note was a memory of sunny mornings grazing under his watchful eye, of cozy nights in the pen, of his gentle hand healing her wounds. The shame was still there, but now it was confronted by a more powerful memory, love. Slowly crawling, limping, she came out of the crevice. When Michael saw her, hurt, dirty, but alive, his face showed no anger or disappointment, showed only pure relief and overflowing love. Grace, he whispered, and the way he said her name sounded like forgiveness itself. She expected a scolding punishment. Instead, he knelt, opening his arms. I searched for you everywhere, he said, his own tears mixing with the blood on his scraped knees. I would never have given up on you. She limped toward him and he wrapped her in his arms, pressing his face against her dirty wool. My dear Grace, he murmured. You're hurt. You're exhausted, but you're found. That's all that matters. Then he did something that completely broke her heart into pieces that could finally begin to heal properly. He didn't immediately pull her back to the flock. He sat right there on the cold ground and began to care for her. He took water from his canteen and gently cleaned her wounds. He applied oil and wine to the injuries. She flinched at the sting, but his hands were firm and gentle. He untangled the thorns from her wool, one by one, singing softly as he worked. Why, she finally bleated, her voice a broken whisper. Why did you come looking for me? I abandoned you. I deserve to stay lost. Michael stopped what he was doing and lifted her injured chin so her eyes met his. Grace, he said softly, my love for you was never about what you deserve. It was always about who you are. my sheep, my responsibility, my joy. Nothing, not the darkness, not the distance, not your disobedience can change that. He lifted her in his arms, not thrown over his shoulders like a trophy, but carried against his chest, like something precious. And he began the long journey back home. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with colors of hope, Michael emerged from the hills carrying Grace in his arms. "Look," one of the shepherds shouted, "he found her." The news spread like wildfire. The shepherds left the 99 and ran to meet them. When they saw Michael dirty, bloodied, exhausted, but radiant with joy, they didn't ask why he risked so much for one. They saw his face, they saw how he held Grace, and they understood. "There is more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents," Michael said softly, his eyes shining, "than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent." And then the celebration began. It's not a solemn scolding, not a condescending "I told you so." A party. The shepherds prepared a meal, the best bread, the finest oil. They sang, danced, laughed. Grace, clean, fed, and with her wounds carefully bandaged, stood in the center of the pen, surrounded by the other sheep who circled her, sniffing her, touching her with their muzzles, bleating welcomes. No judgment in their eyes, just joy that the one who was lost had been found. She looked at Michael across the campfire, and he smiled at her, a smile that said, "You're home, forever." Years passed. Grace grew, no longer the youngest sheep, but one of the wisest in the flock. And always, whenever a younger sheep began to look beyond the fence with curious eyes, it was Grace who approached and lay down beside her. She didn't preach. She didn't tell scary stories. She just whispered, "I looked at those flowers too, and I can tell you the grass isn't greener, and the price of finding out for yourself is too high." And then she added, her gaze gentle, "But if you ever get lost, and some of us do get lost, know this: your shepherd will come for you. He will cross the night, face any danger, bleed on sharp stones, but he will come because you belong to him. He will never, never give up on you, because Grace." The sheep who was once lost carries in her body the scars of her wandering, and in her heart the deepest memory, that of the shepherd who loved her back home. Dear friend, perhaps you're reading this story and feeling like you're the lost sheep. Maybe you followed deceptive winds and now find yourself in a darkness you never imagined. Yes. Maybe you're hurt, tired, ashamed, hidden in a crevice of despair, believing you're too far to be found, too dirty to be loved, too lost to be saved. Listen to the voice of the Good Shepherd now as he calls your name through the pages of this story. "I have come to look for you, not out of obligation, but out of love. Your disobedience didn't change my heart for you. Your distance didn't diminish my care. Your bad choices didn't exhaust my grace. I know every ravine where you fell, every flower that poisoned you, every shadow that frightened you. And yet I came. I faced a cross for you. I shed my blood for you. I crossed through death for you. And if you simply come out of your hiding place hurt, limping, ashamed, you will find my arms open, not to punish, but to heal, not to scold, but to restore. Let me carry you home. It's a celebration waiting for you, not because you deserve it, because you're mine. And not one of my sheep, not a single one, will be outside my pen when night finally falls forever. The choice is yours. Stay in the darkness, you know, or answer the shepherd who calls your name. He's right there at the entrance to your darkness, singing about love that doesn't quit, waiting for you. Come home. May the Lord bless you and keep you. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel.